Okay, so today we will start with a new unit. In textbook, yeah, I believe it's chapter 11 probably. Okay, I don't remember exactly. So anyway, so we will start object-oriented programming next feature regarding inheritance. Okay, inheritance. So inheritance, it involves more than one class. Okay, so it also describes the relationship among classes. And if you recall, last class we discussed some like data class and employee class. Is it an employee has a data class's instance variable? Is it, you remember, like a higher date? Is it? So there are also some relationship between these two classes. Is it? So this kind of relationship, one class has another class as a instance variable, then this kind of has, we call it has a relationship. Okay. And what today we will see is it's called the inheritance relationship. So inheritance relationship is described like a parent. So inheritance means parent and child. That so it's in. So over here to use to describe what we call here it's a super class and subclass relationship. Okay, so subclass, then it inherits some features from superclass. So basically it inherits some properties and methods from superclass. Okay, so this kind of relationship, we call it inheritance relationship. For example, like in our example, we will describe, we call it a commission employee. So basically, how about let's say like a commission employee. And basically, it should also be an employee. Is it? So an employee, generally speaking, you have name, hire date, salary, is it? And those are very general information like name, salary, hire date. Is it very basic? Is it? But for commission employee, then it's not, you just have name, salary, hire date. You also needed the salary also based on what? Commission. Is it? You also needed to know the commission rate. Is it for the commission employee? You also needed to record this kind of information. But the other parts, like name, salary, and hire date, all this, it's the same from employee class. Is it? So then the question is, do we need to design a brand new class called commission employee from scratch? Or we can let this commission employee class take advantage of the employee class already defined, like name, salary, hire date, and the related methods, so that I can just put my focus on commission rate. So this is different part. This is new feature, is it? For all of the other shared with employee, then I can just go ahead to use that, is it? So to use that we call it inherit. So in Java, how do we define something like this? Okay, so that's called the inheritance. And in Java, to describe the inheritance relationship, we have a keyword called extends. So for our, what we just define like employee, then commission employee. Then you can define public class commission employee like extends. What we already defined last class, is it? Extends employee. Then in Java, you define the relationship between these two classes as inheritance relationship. And the employee class then is a super class. And the commission employee, then it's a subclass. Okay, subclass. So it's inheritedly has whatever already in employee class, and it allows those features be inherited in commission employee. Okay, but over here, in this example, we didn't do commission employee from employee. We let commission employee extends from a class called object. Okay, and the object class is Java's, we can call it a super, root superclass. So basically, all other Java class defined are subclass of object class. It's just we never explicitly write it. And here we explicitly write, okay, we let our commission employee be a extends from object class. Okay, and remember, object is Java's root, the root level. So object. In this case, is we have our commission employee be inherited from object class. And in UML diagram, if you want to draw the relationship between a superclass and a subclass, we use the arrow, the up point arrow, okay? And it point to, so it point from subclass to superclass. And so if I ask you to draw these two classes, then you can draw two rectangle, is it? So here is object class, and here is commission employee. So then it tells in UML, it states that commission employee is a subclass of object class. Okay, so remember the keyword is called extends. Using extends to describe the relationship between superclass and subclass. Okay, and don't worry about this. Later on, we will come back to explain this. And then over here, if you take a closer look, here it has an instance variable. Is it first name, last name, social security number, gross sale, commission rate? Those are all instance variables. We already learned, is it, and the type. But here, this is new. The modifier is not private anymore here, is it? It's called protected. Previously, we already learned private and public. Public, is it? For private, so suppose this is a class, is it? So private only accessible inside the class, a class, is it? And the public, it can outside from, so other class, is it? So then it can access, is it? So this is another class. And if it's public, then you can still access, is it, some methods. So suppose this part is private, they are only accessible within the class, and this is public, is it? Then public can access the public part, but cannot access the private part, is it? So that's regarding private and public modifier and regarding visibility. And here we have another word called protected. Okay, so then protected, the idea is if you define, so then we have, so we can draw something like this. So we have public accessibility, and then we have protected, and we have private. And the private only accessible within the class, within the class, and public accessible outside of the class. And for protected, it's interesting. Okay, so if these are two classes, if these two classes are inheritance relationship, so if it is inheritance relationship, then the subclass can also access the protected attributes and the behaviors from the subclass of superclass. So protected can be accessed from subclass. So that means those instance variables will be accessible for subclass besides the class itself. So it's it is more, but compare with public can access anything, is it? So in this case, public cannot access so if it is protected, it's not accessible to some other class. And if it's private, definitely not. But if it's public, then it's accessible. Okay, so that's a difference among these three different kind of modifiers. Then next, let's take a look. And for this commission employee, as it is, if you take a look, it's pretty similar as what we defined previously for class. So this is a constructor, and it has parameter, is it? And you just assign parameter to the instance variable. Okay, for gross sale and the commission rate, we call two other instance methods to do that. And then we also have the respective mutator and accessor for first name, is it a set and a get method. So nothing new here, set and get. Last name, same thing. You have set last name, and we also have get last name. Okay, it's pretty similar. And for social security number, we also have set and we have get, is it? And for the gross rate, gross sale, same thing. We have set and we have get. And for this gross rate, don't worry, because over here we do the precondition check. So this is a precondition check. And don't worry about the exception later on, we will learn. Okay, so if it's not a legal value, we just throw some exception in this case. Okay, and the commission rate is same thing. We have set and we have get. Okay, and over here, we also define a method called earnings. So it's based on commission rate and the gross rate, is it? And then over here, if you take a look, this toString, compare what we previously learned. Here we have some new thing. This is add override. So this is called an override annotation. Okay, so that means this method toString override its parent class or its superclass. Superclasses toString method. Okay, so over here, who is the superclass? Object. Object class is a superclass. So basically, object class has a method that's exactly the same. Okay, it's also called public string and toString. Okay, but this is from the object class and it has the implementation. Is it? So this toString, this toString are exactly the same name, but also the same what? Signature. Exactly the same, these two. Okay, but they are in two different class. One is in superclass and here is a subclass, its own. And this kind of relationship between these two classes, we call it method overriding. Method overriding. And who still remember last class? We also mentioned another over. We call it overloading. Method overloading versus overriding. What's the difference? What is regarding method overloading? Overloading is what? Same name, but different signature. Signature, and also in the same class. Same class. Is it? Overriding is what? Same name, same signature. In what? In different class. The class must have what? Inheritance relationship. In this case, okay, so later on we will also learn there are some other way to do overriding that's not involved with inheritance. Okay, so this is not mandatory. Okay, this is okay, but anyway, they have the same name and the same signature. Okay, and in this case, it's in different class. So basically, in superclass and the subclass, then it's called the override. Okay, what override mean? So the meaning is if an object is a commission employee, then you are going to use its own version of toString. You are not going to use its superclass's toString. That's called override because you want to override its behavior. Is it? Okay, so anyway, so here there's a toString because you do need to override. Is it? Because it's involved all first name, last name, social, gross, sale, commission rate. of this only exist with commission employee, and those not exist in object class. That object class doesn't have those. So that's why you need to provide its own version of toString, okay? Okay, so this is regarding overriding. And here we have another method called clone. That this method also we need to override, okay? And here you just, and here we use the super keyword. Okay, so this super keyword means object. Because regarding commission employee, who is a super class? It's an object class. So this specific keyword super means object. And the object class also has a method called clone. Okay, and you want to call its clone method. Is it? So that's how you do it. You just call super dot clone. And for this, any of the method itself, then you call this dot like set first name. Is it? So this is reference object itself. And the super means the super class. This is super. Okay, so here that means you call super class clone, and over here you call object itself set first name method. So the clone method you can override object's clone method, and in object class it also has another method called equals. And equal last class, remember I also explained in our other example. Is it? So in this case, it try to compare contents of two objects or two instances. Okay, so you want to compare what? Compare the object itself versus whatever plugged in. The O, is it? And the parameter type is that super, is that root class object. Okay, in this case, okay, object. Okay, and basically over here you want to compare two commission employee, is it? So that's why you need to cast it. So here we needed to cast first. Because, oh, you're going to, because you implement in the commission employee. So basically what you plugged in is going to be another commission employee instance. Is it? It's another commission employee instance, but it's expressed like this. Later on we will explain, that's fine, that as an object. So that's why over here you need to cast it to commission employee, okay? And then you can just do the comparison one by one, okay? So anyway, so that's the equals method, we override. Okay, that's the general idea, okay, about this commission employee class. Then let's take a look. If you take a look, so in this example, that we just discussed this commission employee. So we have multiple files that commission employee. And the next class we are going to discuss, it's called base plus commission employee class. And how do you add a new class in NetBeans? NetBeans is on the package name, you right click, then you do new, then you just add Java class. Then you type the name, and then it will be created within the same package. Okay. So anyway, so next let's see. Over here, we define a new class called base plus commission employee. And it said it extends from commission employee. Is it? So basically here, if we draw the hierarchy, it's an object, and the inherited from object, we have commission employee. And then we have commission employee. Is it? And from commission employee, we have base plus commission employee. Okay, so that's the base plus inherited from commission employee. Okay, and the commission employee, if you recall, it has what? It has protected method of like first name, last name, etc. It has some instance variable, and they are protected. And in our base commission plus employee, we only have a single instance variable called base salary. We don't have all of the other fields, but just think about it. Base plus commission employee should also have first name, last name, social security number, commission rate, and the sales, something like that. So it should have all of those. So over here, no need to redefine properties that can be inherited from superclass. We don't need, because we can just go ahead and inherit them. Is it directly use them, access them? So there is no need, so that we reduce the redundancy. Is it? The redundancy, code redundancy. Is it? That's also the goal whenever you design some software. Is it? Reduce code redundancy. Okay, and but they are still accessible from the subclass for all of the superclass. And then next, let's see. So we first define the constructor. Is it? And if you take a look, the constructor still have first name, last name, social security, sales, and rate. Is it? And the plus the base salary. So what it does over here, the very first step is you don't need to reset that. Is it? You just call, whenever you do super and parentheses, this is you call superclasses constructor. So whenever you have inheritance relationship, a subclasses constructor will call, so invoke superclass constructor first. It will always do this, superclass first. And then after it finishes that, then it do something else. Okay, so here's a set base salary, okay. And then let's see the base salary. It's pretty straightforward, you just assign the value, okay. And we also provide a get method. And then next, let's take a look. And if you recall, let's go back to commission employee. So here is regarding commission employee, okay? commission employee has already defined a method called earnings. The earning is what? It's a rate times sale, is it? And for the subclass, which subclass? You also define earning, because for base plus commission employee, the earnings calculation is different from commission employee, is it? So you should define its own earnings calculation. So here we define its own. But because superclass already has the earnings method, so that's why over here you need to override it. Okay. So this earnings is, so override superclass. This is earnings. Okay, and it has its own calculation. Has its own calculation, and if you take a close look, you will find these two instance variable from what? From superclass. Is it? And this is from class itself. Is it? But here, because they are from superclass, but because they are protected, because it's protected, so you can directly access in subclass. That's how protected work. If they are defined as private in superclass, then they are not accessible. Okay, but protected, accessible in subclass, but not accessible in other class. Okay, in other class. So that's regarding regarding this override method. And then for this base plus commission, then we define another version of toString. Let's override commission employees toString method. Okay, toString. And then once again, here you see you directly access. So directly access protected instance variables from superclass. Is it directly access? So that's allowed. Okay, so this is regarding the commission employee and base plus commission employee. Okay, we kind of see their relationship. Okay, and next let's see how do we use that. Okay, so here is the driver. Okay, the driver. So in the driver, the first instance we created is a commission employee, that L1, and here is the social security number, the sales, and the rate, that rate. And what over here, we have an employee 1-1, and we assign it to employee 1, is it? And then on 1-1, we change the last name. And then you output, we do system data.print. The commission employee get this one's toString. Okay, we call it toString. And what do you think the last name then is going to be? The last name is going to be what? So it's going to be changed. Let's change it to red. Okay, not 1. Okay, because this is what? This is alias. Alias. Okay, it's a shallow copy. Okay, so here the idea is we can draw. Okay, So on stack memory, this we have that name, and we have that some employee one. Is it employee one on heap? We created that L1. Is there something? Is that so? This we call that new. It's getting created, and then we have that second variable employee 1. Is it? And we set it equal to employee 1. So basically, what that means is employee 1 also refer to this memory block. Is it this memory block? And then you call the data set last name to a new one. Is it? This data set last name is going to happen on what? It happens on this memory block. Is it because it happens on this memory? So that's why this changes to the new last name. That's why even though you said you work on 1, but actually you also work on 1 because both point to the same one. This, we call this an aliasing problem. Okay, all shallow copy. Okay, shallow copy. So that's what. So you need to be careful, okay, whenever you do a reference assignment. Okay. Okay, and if you do want to make 2 different clone copies, then if you recall in our commission employee class, we have that clone method. Okay, that clone method provide a deeper copy. In this case, okay, in this case, in some cases, not a pure deeper copy. Later on, we will see when the scenario get complicated. But in this case, it's a deeper copy. If you do want, you call that clone method. Okay, then this 1.3, commission 1.3, okay, it's going to be a clone of employee 1. Okay, and then if you do set last name, this guy won't be changed. Okay, won't be changed. So what this happens, let's see over here. This 1.3 employee 1.3 is it first you create a new memory block for it. Is it? And then you reassign it to the clone. Okay, to the clone. And then you set the clone to a different one. Okay, to a different one. So let's see. Let's draw the diagram to understand better. So here, we have that stack memory, okay? And over here, we have our heap memory, is it? So first we have that employee 1. Is it employee 1 is a memory block of Ellen 1 something, is it? And then later on, we have that employee 1.3. Employee 1.3 is what? It's called new. Because whenever you have that new commission employee, is it is going to create a new memory block. And here is Alan 3. Or 3 something. Is it a new memory block? And then you said, okay, this 1.3, you call this over here, we call that employee one dot clone. So that dot clone, what that means is it creates a new memory block. The new memory block will have exactly the same contents as the original. That's the clone. You call the clone. And then you do the assignment. You say, okay, employee 13 equals that employee one dot clone. Is it? You call this, that means you're going to drop this reference and make it reference to this new memory block. When you make it reference to this new memory block, then you call it 13 dot set last name to like a new last name. So it's going to happen here. As it won't, it has nothing to do with the original memory block. So this dot clone gave us a what? We call it deep copy. Okay, so be careful about the relationship. Okay, where do we? Okay, so here we already checked. Is it already checked? Yeah, clone, and then said we can verify that it's not changed. Okay, and what is the next part? Let's see over here. So here for this employee, it's what? It's a base plus employee. Okay, base plus. Then we just call its own toString. So this toString is whose? Is base plus. Okay, because the employee is what? It's base plus. Okay, so it will call it. And also call set base salary, is it? And you can output. And the earnings, it will call whose? It will also call base plus. Okay, so it will call overridden one, is it? Okay, so this part, I don't think there is anything too confusing. Okay, so it's pretty straightforward so far. And then the next one, let's see, over here, let's take a look. This method. So here we define a method called app. And this method is what? Is a class method, so static method. And the parameter type is object, it's a root class. So basically this X can be any type of reference because object is root one, okay? Can be any type. So very broad. Okay, so this M very simple, so I just do print line and call the methods corresponding to string method. Very straightforward, okay. Then let's see over here. So then over here, what we do is we call app. The first one we plug in is what? Is employee commission or commission employee. We call commission employee. Is it? We call commission employee. So anyway, so here commission employee object is going to be created. So let's go back to take a look. So over here, it's going to be a commission employee object. Is going to be plugged in. Is it? And so this data toString. So this toString is going to be whose? Whose? Well, here is the question. Objects, commission employees, so whose it should be in this case? In this case, it should be whose? It should be the commission employees. Okay, commission employees. So be careful, okay? It's going to call commission employees toString, even though the parameter type is object. Is it object? But what you plug in as well is a commission employee object. Okay. And then, so that's why you should call commission employee, not objects. So this kind of scenario, we call it dynamic binding. Okay, it's also involved with OOP. Okay, it's dynamic binding. Okay, it's the respective subclasses corresponding overrides method. Okay, even though everyone has that toString, but in this case, we'll call commission employees version. Okay, commission employee. And so over here, when we call that, is it called the toString? So it will call the respective subclasses toString. So this case, we call it dynamic binding. But for method M, its parameter type, it's object. Is it? But over here, you plug in commission employee. So plug in with subclass instance. So that is fine. This is allowed because in inheritance relationship, we call it is a relationship. Because a commission employee object, of course, it is also a object type of object, is it? And in the next call, we call base plus. And of course, a base plus commission employee object, the type, you can also see it is also a commission employee, is it? So we say it is a relationship. It is base plus, it is also a commission employee, is it? Because it inherits a lot of common properties from commission employee, is it? But you plug in with different type of subclass. So plug in with another subclass. Is there another type, another subclass object? So this kind of cases, we call it in OOP. In OOP, we call it polymorphism. Okay, polymorphism. So it takes in different types of object. And the parameter type initially is a very general one, okay, object. But because both of them are subclass of object, so that's why you can plug in with their own type. So this is demonstrated various type. So that's why it's called polymorphism. It's changed from the original, is it? So This kind of feature, we call it polymorphism. So we already learned all three features. Is it encapsulation of OOP, object-oriented programming, inheritance. We also learn here the third one, polymorphism. So those are the three major features that we always talk whenever we say OOP, okay. Okay, I think